Great morning and thank you for tuning in. Today is May 4th and this is your Monday market update. Most people think clinician burnout is just stress. It's not. I sat down with Dr. Negin Rajaipour, physician, Navy veteran, best-selling author, and founder. What she shared completely reframes what's actually happening beneath the surface. We got into moral injury, nervous system overload, and why the system is missing the real problem. If you've ever felt like healthcare is treating symptoms instead of causes, this one is going to hit. So let's get into it. All right, well, we're live. We're rolling. Really excited that we're doing this. So let's start here. What's been something meaningful or impactful for you this week? And then just give everyone a quick intro on you, VitaRegen, and the work you're doing right now.
All right, Justin, it's so wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to have this beautiful morning with you. It's Friday, so I'm excited. So I'm Dr. Negin Rajaipour. I'm a board-certified family medicine physician, but my path has been kind of, for the lack of better term, a little crazy. So I'm in the midst of launching VitaRegen Medical and the Resurrection Algorithm, which is a separate brand under my book. I was published back in February of 2026, and it's co-authored with Brian Tracy and Matt Hazaki. And so I've been just pushing through, as an entrepreneur who are bearing many hats. I'm not just a doctor. I am the CEO. I'm the founder. I'm the author. I'm the social media content creator. I am the IT team that's working on developing AI and keeping up with technology. So it's just so many things going on. I don't know where you start.
Yeah. Well, I'll say one word immediately comes to mind is you are unstoppable based on all of that. So with everything going on. One thing too I'm also curious about is tell me a little bit more about the E method. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The E3 method, so it stands for elevate, embody, and evolve.
Okay.
Throughout my career for the past 10 years, I've been in conventional medicine treating patients. But what I realized, not just from treating others, but also my own experience, that we're lacking in nervous system regulation, in identity rebuilding. We're addressing the symptoms, but and the body, but we're not addressing the story behind the symptoms, and we're not reconstructing the person after they get well. So that's where the E3 comes in. So elevate is recognize the patterns, look at nervous system regulation as the foundation. Because without a solid foundation, no matter how much we treat the body, it's not going to stick. No matter how much we modify the behavior, it's not going to stick. So first and foremost, recognize the patterns, regulate the nervous system. Then we go to embody, which is where we do hormone optimization. We treat the physical elements, insulin resistance, the body composition, all of that, which is basically very powerful. And conventional medicine is very good at addressing all of that, especially integrative and functional medicine. And then evolve, we work on identity rebuilding. Who are you now? Because you're not your story. You're not your trauma. You're not what caused the chaos in your nervous system in the first place. So we have to rebuild. And that's where evolve comes in. And that's why I have the E3 method.
Yeah, I love that. It's actually really powerful about the identity piece of that, and really in how in shaping identity in a positive direction, and unshackling from how that can be a negative. And for example, is like, well, I'll just like everyone fails, right? We all fail as humans. It's part of the human experience, right? And so one of the things I've learned is like, okay, well, I'm not a failure. I might have failed at this action or this scenario, this situation, and how important it is for us to, help shape our own identity and reframe it that, hey, I'm not a failure. I might have failed at something, fill in the blank XYZ.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
story we tell ourselves, especially as a youngin when we're
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
Those stories stick with us, right? And become a part of our identity. And that's why it's so important from my perspective to work with the ACE score. And on top of that, I've made an extension of the ACE score, which is called the AAE score, basically,
Yeah.
Adverse Adulthood Experience score. After 18, what happens? We still experience a lot of trauma. We still create a lot of stories about our identity, which isn't true because it's a result of the experiences we have, the betrayals we suffer, the morale and the hardships we go through in life. But that story is not our identity, and we have to create separation between the two. There is the story and there is the identity, and who you
Mm.
are is not your story.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love everything about it. Well, let me ask you this about, so to frame it up, like the system pressure. So from your experience, what's really happening beneath the surface with clinicians right now that most people in healthcare, or like in our space, for example, healthcare staffing, aren't like fully seeing or understanding?
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I think from my perspective, I think people are being labeled as burnt out or burnout
Yeah,
being an epidemic in healthcare, right? But burnout doesn't really describe what's happening. Burnout means somebody is tired. But what's beneath that, the deeper layer, is morale injury. And morale injury is basically when you're asked to repeatedly go against your beliefs. So that's the root cause. And we're not really addressing that. A self-care pamphlet or a class on burnout is not going to address what's underneath all of that, which is both system failure and also the amount of trauma clinicians are carrying on a day-to-day basis
yeah,
because of the work they do. Because
yeah,
you're basically positioned in the place of holding someone else's suffering, witnessing someone else's suffering without the time to really process what that is doing to you. And the other aspect of it is the insurance model creating basically morale injury by controlling how medicine is run, how, visits are limited when
sure.
someone comes in and you only have 10 minutes to spend with them, whereas what they need is 40 minutes of your time. So you're present with them, but you're
Yeah,
not able to give them that. So
yeah.
it creates that morale injury.
Yeah. Well, it sounds, and I think you already mentioned this, but it really just sounds like it's like the focus is on the surface fix, not the root cause. And if we're able to get to the root cause instead of just treating the symptoms, then we can have a much more positive impact on the patient outcomes and also for the clinicians that are experiencing burnout. How would you suggest somebody apply that kind of root cause problem solving lens to what you're seeing with burnout and just clinician fatigue across the industry right now?
Absolutely. First and foremost, we have to stop blaming the clinician.
Mm,
So, it's like labeling them as burnt out and putting them in some physician burnout program. That in itself is traumatic and it causes injury and fatigue. So, recognizing that in itself and realizing burnout is not a character flaw. It's just a nervous system that's been in survival mode for so long
yeah,
that it has forgotten to relax. So, really looking at the story behind it. What happened to you as a clinician when you were in that code where someone's child died, despite everything you did? When you had to go deliver that news to the parents despite everything you did right, and you felt that sense of helplessness and hopelessness. And I'm talking from experience because I worked in the emergency setting. And that was me. I had to go from a 45-minute code where I was giving my 100% to that individual under my care, and they didn't make it. And I had to go walk 10 feet away and talk to another patient, deliver good news about their labs without having any time in between to process what just happened. So just shoving my emotions down. And I was very good at that because I served in the military too. And military taught me your emotions don't matter. The mission is what you focus on and you get it done. So I was very good at that, very good at shoving down my emotions and pretending that I was okay and moving forward. So that is where the root is. And we need to address that because at the end of the day, the clinicians are not robots. They are human beings. And when they witness someone else's suffering, pain, economical challenges, their health issues, it affects them on an emotional, layer. It could be
Absolutely.
triggering their own wounds.
Yeah. So for those clinicians like that are going through that right now, have gone through that, are carrying that weight, who feel like they're running on empty, what does the first step toward actually rebuilding look like if a clinician is in that moment?
So slowing down
Mm,
first and foremost, being
yeah.
present with the pain instead of trying to run from it. And what I found super helpful in my journey was looking at my ACE score, which is the Adverse Childhood Event score, and looking at my AAE score. That really opened my eyes about, wow, I am carrying this weight of unprocessed, unhealed traumas. It's like trying to run a marathon with a 100-pound backpack on your back.
Yeah. You're
You
gonna be doing a lot of walking.
long,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
you can go
Right.
so
Yeah.
long, then the
Yeah.
body will give up. So looking at that and starting to implement some very basic, simple nervous system regulation exercises that help you come back to your body and feel safe in your existence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Love that.
trauma disconnects us from our body. And when we can't feel safe in our own physical being, it becomes a vicious cycle, right? It triggers our nervous system into fight or flight again. The cortisol levels elevate again, as if
Yeah.
something traumatic is happening right now. But with breath, with presence, we can come back and feel safe and start rebuilding our nervous system, our physiology, and our identity.
Yeah. So actually on going a little further and something that's very timely right now from trauma and mental health. And so was some recent momentum, very recent at the federal level around psychedelics and trauma, PTSD and mental health, which feels like a broader signal. And so I'm curious to get your thoughts and perspectives on that, the bill that was just signed. And do you see this as a part of a larger shift in medicine toward actually addressing root cause and nervous system recovery through psychedelics?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a reason why on April 18th, there was an executive order for psychedelic therapies, and there's a reason why it's landing now. Because after all of this time, finally, medicine is recognizing its shortcoming. We have hit a ceiling in mental health. We are not helping people heal. I'm talking
Yeah.
about trauma related issues, right? PTSD, depression, anxiety. So I don't know how fast things are going to shift, but there is definitely a big shift. And people have been begging for this for so long, especially veterans.
Yeah.
For the past 20 years, they have been going overseas. They've been going to South America, to Mexico, to receive these psychedelic treatments. And it's about time to have this paradigm shift in medicine and recognize that we need to do things differently, that SSRIs are not the answer, that SNRIs are not the answer, benzodiazepines are not the answer. So I'm really happy to be living in these times where we are finally awakening to our shortcomings and the ceiling that we have hit in medicine, in conventional medicine.
Yeah. Why do you think it's taken this long?
I think a lot of the uphill battle has been regulatory issues, just the misunderstanding of what these medicines
Yeah.
are really for. People have misused them for so long to escape, but these are not medications or treatments that you use for escape. These are sacred, especially the plant medicines. They are sacred medicines that need to be taken with reverence, with guidance, with a lot of support afterwards, because the medicine itself doesn't do the work for you. It
Right.
shows you the work that you need to do. But what you do after in integration and therapy, that's where you see the shift and the changes that you need to make in your life.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Well, hey, before we get out of here, I want to talk a little bit more about your book. So obviously you have one book out now, and then tell me a little bit more about your other book that's going to be coming out.
Well, the second book is still in the editorial process.
Okay.
The first book we co-authored with 10 authors. So mine
Okay.
is the resurrection algorithm, my contribution. The business encyclopedia is coming out in June. That one is getting published with Brian Tracy and Matt Hazaki. And it's been a wonderful journey. The resurrection algorithm, basically, it's not about going back to who you were. It's about recalibration. It's about reconfiguration and who you become moving forward.
Yeah. Sounds like a part of becoming the best version of yourself, who you become going forward.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Well, so where if so someone that's listens to this episode, like where can they find the current book, like on Amazon, or where can and the one that's coming out in June? Where's the best place
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
find
The
it?
best place right now is Amazon.
Okay.
Also, I'm working on launching my website, my e3method.com, and obviously my Instagram at DRNEGINR. So on Instagram, all these links are in my bio and people can reach out.
Okay, perfect. Well, I guess I'll just close on my end with just so much gratitude for you for being here today and sharing your perspective on some really important things that are happening in healthcare on both the patient care side and on the clinician side, and just providing so much value through your upcoming books to helping and make a positive impact on the lives of those in need. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Justin. It's been a pleasure to be here with you, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.